All right, thank you, Hazim, thank you. A very good morning to all. Thank you for joining these sessions organized by Teaching and Learning Center, Emerald Publishing, and today we also have a special guest from UPM, School of Business and Economics, University Putra Malaysia. Prof. Hall is with us today. So it's recording is now is actually recorded right now. Probably you have seen this face, William, in the previous webinar or in the previous years before. With that, I shall start the session today. I think all of us should be able to view my PowerPoint screen.
Yes.
And all right. Thanks, Azim. So for today's sessions, which is about case writing, it's all about case writing. And it's going to be from 10 o'clock in the morning until 12 in the noon time. We appreciate for any comments, any questions, or anything that you want to ask to me and to Prof. Hall. Please feel free to put in the chat. We will be delighted, and we also can learn from your comments and from your interaction as well. Without further ado, let me just quickly give you an idea what is this session all about. Basically, this session is just a short 2 hours to share about case writing tips and also experience from both the publisher perspective and also from author perspective. The first hour would be sharing by me. We're talking a bit on the products about Emerald, and I'll be also sharing about teaching, using cases to teach in the classroom environment. How do you, prepare yourself before the class? How can you ask the students to prepare themselves before coming into the class, and how can you use the teaching note to prepare your questions, to get them into the discussions area, and so. Then following by Prof. Hall, Prof. Hall will be sharing on case writings, on some introductions and also some tips on writings and her experience as well. Probably you know this already. I've been copy paste this in the previous webinar too. If you do not know, probably now you know. Publication with Emerald is free, so you do not need to pay any publication fees to publish in Emerald Journal, Emerald Books, and also Emerald Cases. And another fun fact, if you do not know, now probably you know that if your case has been successfully published in Emerald EMCS, Emerald Emerging Market Case Study, that case will be rewarded £100. It's just a small token as an incentive, yeah, to motivate case writer to write cases, to publish with Emerald as well. Acknowledgement. All in all, again, I would like to say thank you to Mr. Hazim and also Mr. Gabriel just now from the Teaching and Learning Center in organizing and promoting and asking you all to join us in these sessions here. A special thank you to Ms. Lee from the Library and Academic Resources Department for supporting these events and asking us to participate as a speaker. A very special thank you to Prof. Hall, to Prof. Dr. Hojo Ant from School of Business and Economics, SPE, from University Putra Malaysia. So in the recent one, if you can see, she has a case published in the Emerald Emerging Market Case Study, and the case, which is very special. I never thought that this is written by Prof. Hall and her team. When I see this, oh wow, very special. Chicken and egg story. We always use this analogy, chicken and egg story, because it's, we're going round and round and round again. And this is all about a case, a call center firm in Malaysia itself. I'm going to share this case in the chat after this when I have a chance. So stay tuned until the sessions. I'm going to share the case to the participants today. Right, just just a quick introductions also. Prof. Hall has been involved in the research and teaching of business ethics, corporate social responsibility, and human resource management since completing her PhD in Cardiff University, United Kingdom. Within ethics, her research concentrates on examining factors influencing individual and organizational ethics. Her other key research area is in corporate social responsibility and its relationship to organizational practices and performance. Joanne is also an occasional case writer and has written case studies for SME Bank Malaysia, the ASEAN Institute of Finance. She also co-authored 3 books. Wow, I didn't know this. Entitled Strategic Management, published by Oxford University Press, PhD Anyone, and Successful PhD Anyone. Both of these books published by UPM Press. Prof. Hall is the associate editor for Business Ethics and European Review, and editorial board member for Journal of Hospitality and Tourism Research and Social Responsibility Journal. Currently, Prof. Hall is a head of program, Bachelor of Business Administration at the School of Business and Economics, UPM. So thank you, Prof. Hall, for accepting the invitations and be the special guest speaker for today. Right. So let us just move on. Rao, again, this is the boring part about Emerald. Probably have seen these slides many times already. I will just quickly just go through that. If you do not know about Emerald, Emerald is a UK-based publisher founded in 1967. Emerald started with the management portfolio. Since then, we have been, our core subject has always been the business, the management, and also on the economics, mainly on the social sciences. So we also expanded to the education, to the engineering, to the library, and also information sciences. We are a medium-sized publisher. We only have 309 subscription journal as of today, more than 3,000 books and more than 3,000 teaching cases already. All in all, Emerald has been known to support early career researchers, support authors across throughout each stage of publication process. Probably you will know more about Emerald on our efforts on the real impact, where as a publisher we support. We signed DORA. DORA simply means that Declaration of Research Assessment, and we also one of the early publisher that signed the UN SDG Publisher Compact as well. So in Malaysia, we are not too far away to Glen Marie. Emerald office is actually in SS15, Subang Jaya. We are just, if you know SS15 Courtyard, which is the, there is a Rakuten, there is Nash and Bell, Texas Chicken is, just below us. So this, our office is just upstairs on the 8th floor. So this is our team here. When pre-COVID time, we actually visited the women survivors of human trafficking in Kuala Lumpur. As I always say this, I always has been proud to say that we have a substantial number, we have a great number from Malaysia that publish and also serve as editorial. So if you can see in 2019 and 2020 and also 2021, so we have a number of more than thousands in a country, which is huge. So this actually means that if you are a student and if you are a teacher, if you wanted to find resources from Malaysia or from this particular region on a selected topic, example, COVID-19 in Malaysia, example, right? Or, student performance, student study performance in Malaysia. Probably you can find luck in Emerald. You can find a number of the resources published in Emerald, because we have substantial authors that publish with Emerald in Malaysia. You're right. In KDU in specific, UOW Malaysia KDU, you are fortunate. I'm actually happy that the library, has been supporting Emerald, and library has been has been supporting with these resources. So for for academics and for students, you're able to access to the business management strategy e-journal collections. Under the Emerald e-journal, you're able to access to business management strategy, to the marketing, to the HR, learning and organization studies, operation, logistics and quality journals, information and knowledge management, which is about IT, 5G communications, accounting, finance, and also economics, and also Islamic accounting as well. EOW previously has subscriptions to tourism and hospitality management, and also 2 years on the emerging market case study. That's why you will see this is green, because they are back files that you can actually access, while the red circle here, which is the current active subscriptions that you can access to. So please make use of the resources that are being subscribed by the library. It's actually difficult to get access to all these resources, and I can say that KDU is really lucky to be able to have these resources to access to. As I was saying, Emerald, we have over 300 over journals. In 2020, we have 293, which is in Scopus, while in last year, from 293, 300 of our journal right now, 300 out of 309 of our journal is now indexed in Scopus. So hopefully this will give you a confidence level to use Emerald resources, and also to consider to publish in Emerald journals. Yeah. So not on journal. You can rewatch the previous webinar from me and from Dr. Gary and also Dr. Jason. For today, we'll be focusing on the emerging market case study. In short, from now on, I'll be using EMCS. Emerging market case study is from Emerald. It's a rapidly growing collection since 2011 that showcasing cases from all business and management disciplinary. So we welcome all submissions to EMCS. There's no publication fees to publish in EMCS. If there's any interested academics that would like to be an ad hoc reviewer, or if you like to propose yourself as an editorial board member, or if you like to propose a special collections in our EMCS, you can always contact me, or you can always contact Gabby directly. So our team has been working with Gabby for very closely, and she has been helping us in our competitions every year as well. So you can view all these collections here. So Gabby which is our product manager in UK. She has been helping us with more of our webinars and also our competition too. Just to give you an idea, what is EMCS? Emerging Market Case Study, you can see here, publishes cases from emerging countries, example from the Asia, from Asia, from the Africa contingent, and also from the South America contingent. If you're to see from here, as to date as of January this year, there are more than 1,000 plus cases published already in EMCS. While for the Asia, you can see that more than 700 over cases have been published. And from Asia, so who are the top countries that contributing here? We can see they are from the India, the first one from the India, the second from the UAE, and the third from Malaysia. So from India, you can see 400 over cases have been published from India in total, 80 from the UAE, and Malaysia we have 61. So which is a very considered the biggest number in the Southeast Asia here, right? So we even more than Pakistan and also from the China here. So you can see from India, total cases published by country in Asia. As of January, you can see India has 66%, followed by the UAE, 12%, and Malaysia, 9%. So now what does it mean again? Simply means that you can see there's a lot of stories coming from the Malaysia here. Probably you have seen cases from AirAsia, from Malaysia Airlines, from the call centers that Prof. Ho is actually written about, from Telecom Malaysia. So these are some familiar company names that would facilitate the teaching and learning. Whenever I do workshops, right, I probably by now I used to use whole jokes, lame jokes around. So in the workshops, I would say that how do you teach students on management? Example, COVID-19 management. We can use stories from McDonald's, stories from KFC, stories from Texas Chicken to tell so that the students can relate all these things in the real life scenario. So in Malaysia, you can use these particular stories as your teaching resources. So EMCS publish discussion-based teaching case study that offers students the opportunity to explore real-world challenges in the classroom environment, and also allow the students to test their making skills before they graduated and going into the workforce or into their workplace. So it allows them to have critical thinking, to have them decision making, analysis, so that they can benefit from this particular case studies itself. All cases accepted by EMCS will have teaching notes, so that, and the teaching notes is also reviewed, right, rigorously reviewed to ensure their teaching objective, facilitate the dynamic classroom discussions, and help the teacher plan how to best use the cases itself. EMCS specialized case research from and about emerging markets and developing countries, and in which traditionally is underrepresented in teaching case collections, which also offer unique and important insight. So what are the subject areas including? Subjects are accounting and finance, built environment, entrepreneurship, environmental management, international business, HRM, management sciences, marketing, operation and logistics, public sector management, strategy, tourism and hospitality as well. So you can see from here, it's a wide range of area that you are looking at, excluding the sciences part. So, excluding the engineering, excluding the medical, then you actually see normally what EMCS will actually cover, which is over here. The uniqueness about EMCS is that it is a double-blind peer review cases. So this is important to note that, and also the stories, the cases are all coming from the emerging economies. One of the most incentived to academics in both Malaysia and also Indonesia is that EMCS is also ranked in Scopus. If I'm mistaken, currently it's in Q4 right now, Q4 index Scopus. And EMCS is 100% accompanied with a teaching note. So the teacher can use a teaching note to prepare before the classes, and to use that. There are question and answers available for the teacher to use in the discussion format, in project assignments, or probably even in examination as well. And we also encourage the author to test the teaching cases before the publication. So some may not have time yet, but most of the cases would have classroom tested environment. Yeah. Some of the idea you can see, from Malaysia. Who are they? They have cases, storytelling from Malaysia. TM, Malaysia Airlines, Ye, Gloria Jeans Coffee, ePay, Gardenia. Gardenia name are quite common during COVID-19. Before and after, not so much. Now we do need to eat so many gardenia already. So Balkis Restaurant, KPJ. I think there are 2 cases on KPJ. Asia, Petronas, UNW, Porsche. So these are some of the names that are more familiar. There, of course, will be even others as well, but these are some of the names that you'll be familiar from Malaysia. Collections. So now I'm going a little bit on the technical side. If you have interest on case publications, give me 1 second. Give 1 second. Okay, all right. If you have interest to publish a teaching case with Emerald, now this is a technical site. You can have these slides at the end of this. I'll be shared in the chat as well. So this is a technical on the guidance on submitting your case to Emerald. So now, what should your teaching case? Your teaching case should have all this, right? Describe the actions of well-developed central protagonist characters, complex and compelling management decision-making dilemma, structural and sufficient discussions, business context and issue, always written in the past tense, engaging narrative, and also does not contain any language error. For more of the information, there are a lot of these informations. This link here will bring you to our website. In Emerald, grouppublishing.com, in our corporate website, you will find these resources on how to. So we have this how-to guide where you can use this to self-learn how to write a teaching case, how to write a teaching note, and so and so. I'm not going to go through very deep on this. This is just to let you know that there are a lot of resources over here that you can go through that will guide you on writing a teaching case and also writing a teaching note. If you require a template is also available in the website here, so that it will give you a guidance on how to kickstart your first case writing. So if you're wondering, do we need to have a consent form in EMCS? Yes, we do need a consent form to be signed by the counter side, by the case that you're actually writing them. If you're writing on the secondary data, then probably the consent form, you can actually reach out to your dean or reach out to your university level so that they can sign on behalf, right? So the consent forms here and the final submissions. Before you submit, what do you need to do? What do you need? What is a checklist that you need to check before your final submissions? All this is actually available in over here. So the manuscript requirement, again, these are very technical. I use this in my workshop, but I'm not going to go through this. If you're wondering how long does a teaching cases in Emerald, is considered. It's not considered. It is a short case between 5,000 to 10,000 words in length. Yeah. So how to actually write and how a case study page should be, what are the details that actually included. You can find all these informations over right here. All right. So again, this is a bit technical. I will leave this for you to read this on your own later. As I said, just a token of incentive. So Emerald are pleased to pay author £100 GBP or equivalent currencies upon publication of their case in EMCS, because we recognize it's an important step for our authors to contribute and to continue improve both the quality and the quantity in EMCS cases. Unfortunately, £100 is needed to split between authors here. It's not £100 per author, it's £100 per case. Right? So without further ado, I'll just go into my more engaging sectors here. Now, how can we use EMCS? Emerging market case study, our cases are divided into two PDF, two parts. The first part, which is called case study, which is a general read and for students. So you can download these case studies. You can ask the students to download the case studies on their own. And under this case study, you will find that it's all about the case introductions. What is this case a background story, the storytelling of this case, the narrative of it, who say what, who say when, yeah. problem statements, the tables, the data, the pictures, and also references over here that are available. So the case normally would not be too long, probably about 3 pages, 2 or 3 pages, or probably up to 7 or even 9, depends on their referencing, and some may include pictures as well. So if they have pictures included, probably you'll see the number of pages will be a bit longer. Yeah. Sorry. So one of the example by Prof. Wan Nordin from UUM. So Prof. Wan Nordin has been writing cases, yeah, not only for Emerald, but also for others as well. So one of his cases, which is the economic cases, AirAsia Berhad, accounting in the spotlight over here. So you can see, so these are introductions on the PDF, talking about the introduction of the case. So the students will read about AirAsia, about their accounting structures, what are the issues that they find, the accountability, why the auditor is actually curing them, and so and so. So students will be learning accounting on the AirAsia story itself. So this is for students, for the general read. Another part, which is the teaching note. Teaching note is only for teaching faculty members. Only the teacher can download that, and we have a special arrangement how teacher can download that in Emerald website. So what can you find in the teaching note? So teaching note will have the synopsis of this particular story, so that the teacher will know that, oh, this case is about, about this. It's just a synopsis about this story. So what is the learning outcome? So what is the students' learning outcome would be? Which courses where the cases can be, teach, discussion questions that are embedded inside here, the discussions answers that actually provided by the authors. They also include the teaching plan. Teaching plan example, 10 minutes on introductions, 30 seconds, 30 minutes on question number 1, another 30 minutes on the question number 2 for discussion purposes. So a teaching plan is also included, and author notes and reminder for the lecturer, for the teachers. What do they need to be, take note? What are they need to reminded? So teaching note is very important, and also very handy for the teacher. So the teacher, in my opinion, I would think that before you start your class, the teacher should have read the teaching note first, read the teaching notes, understand what is the teaching case is about, what are the questions, what are the answers, the discussions, how do you plan, how many students in the group to discuss. So this will actually give you an idea how to facilitate the discussions of the students. All right, so the EMCS, as I said, just a recap, we'll have these two: case studies, PDF, teaching note, also another PDF. So how do you connect your class with, how do you connecting your class with the cases? So how do you do that? Very simple. If you go into the Emerald database, you can just search by the keyword itself. You can search by the topic, you can search by the subject, you can search by the teaching lessons, or you can even search filter by the country that you want, example, Malaysia country. Read the case summary, before using it, before, get the students to read, or before use this case to teach ad hoc. Before that, some may not prepare enough. They just use the case and teach. In my advice, I would say that probably it would be better for to read the case summary to understand, is this case suitable for your students, suitable for your class and discussions environment, right? So always check the subject relevancy and content usability. Example over here is you use this under the case itself. The case summaries will always tells you the learning outcome, and also the synopsis here. This is just a short, probably about 200 words, probably less than that, about 100, 150, probably around that. So it's a short read for you to know what is this case is about. And following by that, you can also see that this case is suitable for who? The case author will always suggest, the level of usability. Example, the AirAsia, is for senior undergraduates. It's also suitable for MBA and also suitable for EMBA as well. So, and the subject code over here, it tells you it's on the CSS. I'm not too sure whether CSS is it or university based or is a common code, but I always refer to this CSS, which is accounting and finance. For me, I learned on my own. I learned to also refer to keywords. I believe keywords is important. That's actually why authors include the keyword. It's not only for searching for SEO, but the keywords also tell us what is this case is about. Even though it's about accounting, right? You can see that this case is also about corporate governance. It's about accountability. It's about audit and audit committees and also culture. So this actually allows you to know what is this is all about. So once you search for it, then as a lecturer, I would like you to explore the teaching note over here. So once you read about the case, then have some time to spend on the teaching note. So teaching note over here will ensure relevancy and suitability. So what is teaching note? Teaching note is basically a guide for teacher. It tells what the teacher need to do before, during, probably even after as well. Yeah. So before and during, you can read about the synopsis for teacher. It has a learning outcome for the teacher. Some may even list down the teaching modules as well, and also the courses where it can apply. So in the teaching note, you will see that it's a synopsis available, again, about 50 or 100 words for you to read, and the learning outcomes over here. You can see here, the learning outcomes for the teacher is slightly detailed for the students. Over here, you can see that the authors will say, teacher, you are teaching, concept of control and power under FRS 10. Again, my apology, I'm not too sure, is this a subject code or, or their own subject code here? But you can see, discuss audit committee and external auditor independence issues and ways to strengthen auditor independence, which is CA and AIR2. Right. So this will give you an idea what the students can learn or should learn about. So some courses where cases can be taught, undergraduate courses, example, financial accounting and reporting, audit and assurance, forensic accounting, which is good. Postgraduate courses, example, for master, DBA, accounting practice and regulation. So this will give you an idea who are the preferred or suitable groups to use these particular cases. For teacher, how do you prepare yourself? Read beforehand. Basically, that is the first step. Read beforehand, understand from the author perspective why they write these cases, explore the teaching plan. Teaching plan it is not best, but sorry, it is not how should I say it? What is a good word? It is not, it is actually best to use in the group discussion, not as an individual. It can use as individual, yes, but using in the group discussions, it will allow the students to interact with their colleague, their peers, their students, so that they can have critical thinking. They can talk to each other, they can learn with each other. So use in group discussions or even project assignments, and some may wanted to use in examination as well. So you can always discuss and explore the discussion questions and make sure it connect with the teaching theory and lessons. In the class, it's not about question and just answer. So after they know about the answers, what do we want them to know? For me, I think that we want them to connect the answers to the teaching theory. We want them to know that they're actually learning the accountings over here. So basically, this is for it. I think this is the last one, which is preparing yourself on the author of reflections. So you can also use some, not all cases. I would like to make this note. Not all cases will have notes from author. There are some experienced case writer, and there are some case writer would like to include remark, would like to include notes or reminder, especially when their cases has been tested in their own environment. In EMCS, in our previous webinar, you will hear that our editorial will always recommend, before you publish your case, please use it in your own classroom. Test it first. Once you tested, then you'll know that probably there are some area of improvement, or there are some area that you would like to add on and things like that. So these are some notes that when they tested in the environment, probably they will get feedback from students and postscript example, and maybe some other supporting materials to support the teaching environment. So the postscript and other material, other references are also available. Again, allow me to recap this. Not all cases will have notes from authors, yeah, not all. But if you have it, that it will be a good read for you to understand how have they been using in the actual environment. What are the things that you need to remind yourself? Yeah. Preparing your students, send the URL link. You can send the PDF, but we do not recommend it. We always recommend send the DOI link so that the students can download it. Set a timeline for the students to read before attending the class. Usually the case is associated to a teaching theory, topic, and syllabus, right? Form a group, small number of packs, and assign them with one or two. Normally will be one or two discussion questions. Apply that also in the project assignment or examination as well. KDU have access to EMCS backbound since from July 2015 to June 2017. Probably you see not many. I think there will be about 200. I think 200 cases available over here for you to actually explore. Yeah, I think that would be a few more. How to access to teaching note, if you want to ask, right, in the chat. How do you teach? If you are a lecturer right now, how do you access to teaching note? We do not want students to access to teaching note. So there is a mechanism in our database to ensure that you are a teaching faculty member. So how do you access? Very simple. To gain access as an educator, what you need to do is only these two steps. To have a profile, register a profile. If you have a profile, that will be good. If you are new, so you can register a profile, which is free. Profile simply means account, yeah. Register an account with Emerald database or register a profile. So, using your institutional email address. Please do not use your personal, because the customer support will need to verify that you are the member of the teaching staff. So the way to to verify it is by verifying that you are from your own institution. Example, if you're from UPM, then please use your UPM email address. If you're from KDU, please use your KDU email address itself. Please include your job title and also your institution name. With this particular request, send it to support@emerald.com. So our support team will then verify and shall change your access to teaching faculty, which is an educator access. So once you're in educator access, you will then come to this teaching note, and you can download the teaching note, right? So that would be that. My last tool will be resources. Yes, so this is resources from my side. We this year we had a very unique webinar. Probably I can say we have never done this before. This is our first one. We have a past webinar with editor-in-chief from EMCS, Dr. Michael Goldman, and also Dr. Fazana from UTM KL campus. This is Gabby. And this is our regional marketing manager, Madam Rosita. So Dr. Michael Gorman, our editor-in-chief, Dr. Fazana, our associate editor from EMCS. So in this particular webinar, we are not talking about publications. This webinar is sharing how to use case study to teach in your classroom. If you have joined Emerald webinar in the past 1 to 2 years before during pandemic, right? Probably you see us share more on publication perspective. So this webinar is very unique in a way that we got Dr. Michael Gorman to share his thought and Dr. Fazana, her thought. Once you have written your case, how do you use this case to teach in the environment? We find that not many academics or teaching faculty member would teach effectively. They can teach, but how to use teaching cases to be more effective in teaching in the classroom environment. So this is the link for it. If you have a free time, it's about 1.5 hours, if I'm mistaken. So it's really, really good sessions. I strongly recommend you to have a watch on this webinar. Before I pass on to Prof. Ho, I just want to do a little bit of promotion. Last 2 years in Malaysia, we organized Malaysia Emerald Malaysia case writing competition 2020. That was in 2 years ago. Last year, we with the success of the Malaysia case writing competition, last year we organized the second one, which is called the Indonesia case writing competition 2021. And follow up from both success, and this year we are launching our Emerald Emerald Asia case writing competition. Emerald Asia case writing competitions for a chance to win £300 for £300 for 4 winners and £100 for another 4 winners. Yeah, so published cases during this particular time. So it's open for case writer from Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, and Thailand. To know more about this, you can go to our website and you can see that it's open for entry right now. It's closing by end of this year. It will be published if it's accepted. If it's accepted, it will be published in EMCS, which is Index in Scopus. And you can stand a chance to also win £300 for four winners and £100 for 4 winners as well too. So that would be that. So if you're interested, when you submit the time, when you submit your entry the time, do remember, please be reminded that to select this, which is called the Emerald Asia Case Writing Competition. Do not select the normal submission. Select the competition category so that you will entitled to join this competition and stand a chance to win. Yeah, probably who knows? Yeah, have a luck in winning this. I think that's really all from me. I don't really see any questions from the chat so far. Just want to shout out to anyone here, because since I think this Microsoft Teams is not muted for all. If you have any questions, feel free to ask that. Yep, all good. All okay. So that was previous time. Any questions from the floor? No need to be shy, yeah. Hope it's not too technical or okay. Right. That's all from me. That's actually all from me. Probably by now you have already get my email address. If not, you can also get my contact from Encik Hazim from TNL Center. from the library as well. So I shall share the, I'm going to share Prof. Hall case in the chat. Let me know if you're not able to download that. I'm also going to share the case to Encik Hazim later, so they can share with all the participants here, and also my PowerPoint too. With that, yeah, all right. With that, we'll stop sharing. Wait, am I still in? Okay, all right. I'm all right. We said I'm stop sharing. If I may, I would like to invite our guest speaker today, Professor Dr. Ho Joanne from School of Business and Economics, University Putra, Malaysia. Thank you so much for inviting the. Accepting for the invitation. With that, we'll pass the floor to you, Prof. Ho.
Thank you very much, Mr. William. Given a very detailed explanation of the case study. Thank you so much, and very good morning to Mr. Hazim, Mr. William, and to all participants who are here today. It is an honor, it is a pleasure for me to be here, to be sharing what I know about case writing. And I would also like to thank UOW Malaysia, KDU University, as well as Admiral Publishing for organizing and for inviting me to be the guest speaker for today. So a little bit about myself. Actually, Mr. William has actually me very well. Yeah, I'm with the School of Business and Economics, UPM. Apart from writing cases, we also, because in UPM, we do have to publish. So I do a lot of my work in empirical studies. So some of the journals that I've published in are listed. Some of it I would not be surprised if it's under Admiral. Yes, we do also have books. I've written some books, and the PhD for anyone and successful PhD anyone is those two are my latest books for anyone who is interested in pursuing their PhD, or they think that they know people who want to do their PhD. Those books are generally recommended because it tells of the experiences of us and a few of my colleagues in doing PhD, and successful PhD anyone is actually the stories of our students, the issues that they face and how they overcome those issues. So that is on successful PhD anyone. As William has, Mr. William has kindly pointed out, I am also, I do sit on a few journals as either associate editors or editorial board members. However, for the business ethics, the environment and responsibility, which last time we know it as business ethics, the European review, I have actually stepped down from that position this year. But the rest of it, yes, I'm still an editorial board member for those journals. Some of the cases that I've written, yeah, I do write case studies, and the ones that I've written, these three, well, the Eurochair success is the one that we were, a team of us were actually engaged by IPO, which is Association of Intellectual Property Owners. We were engaged to write a case about this company, Eurochair. For BSN, we were engaged by the Asian Institute of Finance, which was last time under the Bank Negara, to write about how BSN actually tried to have financial inclusion for people in the rural areas. And then the way to success is actually a case study that we published in a book for CIDA. CIDA is actually the Center for Entrepreneur Development and Research. So these were actually more something like consultancy, consultation projects that we turn it into a case study. We were engaged to write cases for these companies, yeah. And then we have two, which Mr. William, the chicken and egg story that Mr. William brought about, is actually part of the MBA case that was written, and a few of us worked on it. Call centers, modern day sweatshops, There's also an MBA study that was conducted by my student, and we turned it into a publication. So those are some of the case studies that we have written on here. So now to go into the agenda for today, I'll be covering these few things. The teaching note, actually, Mr. William has covered a lot in depth, but I will just cover and add on to what Mr. William has actually presented just now. Yeah, so those we'll start off with the case research overview. Yes, basically, what is a case, right? If you use cases in class, you probably realize that a case is not a long document. It's basically just 10 to 15 pages that describes a real-life managerial decision or a problem that needs to be solved. So usually when you talk about case writing, you are trying to bring in a slice of the company into the story itself, and you're trying to write it from the decision maker's point of view, right? The decisions or the issue that is faced by the character in your case itself. And basically, a case will have all the relevant facts that are necessary to make that decision. And you should write your case to have all these important facts, because at the end of the day, you want your readers or your students to be able to come to a solution for the questions that you have. And a good case would actually have all this information so that your readers do not have to search outside the case for that information. Okay, so basically that is the case. Case study actually talks about a story that is faced by the decision maker. And it is, later on you will see that it is quite different from journal writing, yeah, from academic writing, from writing a manuscript for a journal, because it is more of a story writing, if you like, yeah. Case users, who actually benefits from the cases, right? Actually, there are three stakeholders who actually benefit. Students. I use a lot of cases in my course. Yeah, I teach business ethics in my university, and I find that when I bring in cases, right, ethical issues, ethical problems that need to be solved, I find that the students actually learn better, because they can see how a concept that I've taught in class be applied to a real world situation. And when I ask students, at the end of the semester, when they evaluate my teaching, I find that the cases are the ones that they actually highlight the most. They actually enjoy the cases, because when you bring in cases, they actually learn how to analyze, they learn from their classmates. When the classmates present their answers, they say, oh yeah, I didn't see it from that perspective. So students actually enjoy when you bring in cases for your class discussion. Faculty, which is us, yeah, lecturers, I think it adds a little bit of variety to our teaching method. Yeah, I find that it is more interesting than just pure lectures. And when you use case studies, you actually find that it actually opens up so many types of methodology that you can use. So you can use group discussion, you can have a little bit of debate in using the cases, yeah. And sometimes you actually learn from students, because even though we have the instructor's manual for us, when we have the cases, we have the instructor's manual or the teaching note, we find that sometimes students also bring in answers that are not in the teaching note, but they actually make sense. As we learn from them, oh, this is the perspective that we may have missed, right? And one of the things that I find when we use cases, right, they can actually form a basis for us to do research. Because when you read about the company, we find, oh, this company has this issue, maybe engaging pro-environmental behavior. They're trying to encourage the employees to be sustainable on their own, yeah. But they are failing, and so this could be a research that you may want to see whether it's true, it's happening in other organizations as well. So it can inform your research, yeah. And of course, for the companies, For example, if you see the companies like BSN, Bank Simpanan National, they engage us to actually write their case because one of the ways that companies build connection with university is actually through engaging lecturers themselves to write cases, right? And sometimes you find that the companies actually have a unique problem. They may want to get a viewpoint from the academic point of view, yeah, of how to solve the situation or whether they have resolved the situation, correctly, if you like, yeah. So companies also benefit from cases itself, yeah. And sometimes when you have written a case, you can actually invite the company to join in the discussion to see how the students discuss and come up with their answers. This is especially useful, and some of my colleagues do this, especially for the MBA students. Yeah, so these are some of the case users. Basically, there are two types of cases. Yeah, you can actually do a field-based case, which is usually what a lot of case writers do. This is what I also engage in when I write my cases. Field-based cases is where you go into the company, you talk to the people in the company, and you write about the issue based in the company. So basically, you work closely with the company and their employees to actually find out what is the issue. So when you write a field or when you engage in a field-based case, you are actually bringing a slice of the reality of what's happening in the organization into your classroom. So that is field-based cases, and this is the one that will help you to build connection with companies. Right, when you go into the company, you talk to people in the company. At the end, you find that they become your friends. You build connection there. Yeah, so this is actually very useful if you want to build connection with companies, so field-based cases. The other one is desk-based cases, which is you don't collect information from the company per se, but you use secondary sources or materials to write about the case. And usually desk-based cases is conducted when you don't have access to the company. Right, so desk-based cases is actually, you can write on it, and some cases I've seen they're very well written. They use all the information that they collect from newspapers, magazines, internet, and they write about the case. For example, if you want to write a case about the crisis management of MAS on the MH370 crash. So you may not have access, and MAS definitely will not want to give interviews on the MH370 crash itself. So where do you get the information if you want to write about crisis management? I'm going to highlight crisis management. So what you can do is there's so much published information on that issue itself. You just gather all this information and you write a case based on it, right? So that is desk-based cases. And both types of cases are equally good, right? If you can write both types, they are good. Yeah, so it doesn't mean that field-based is actually more superior than desk-based. No, they are both equally recognized and also accepted for publications and for use in class itself. So now go on to the case research process. Now this case research process, you may find that what I have here is it may be slightly different from others, but generally yeah, these are some of the steps that applies to me. Yeah. So what do we start with? We always start with having a company, right? You don't have an issue, you don't have a company, you don't have a case. So we start with that. Then we go on to confirmation, case development, conduct the interviews, writing the case, then getting the company to sign the release of the case, right? And then writing the teaching notes. I'm going to go on a little bit for each step, yeah? So the first one is identifying the issue for the company. And usually, you start with companies which you have contacts. I think that is the easiest, right? Because if you want to do a field-based case study, you have to go into the company, and not all companies would welcome researchers to go in and ask questions about the company. They may not actually welcome it. Yeah, so it's always easier to start with companies that you have contacts. Maybe you know someone in the company and you are having teh tarik session with them, and suddenly they bring up an interesting issue or bring up a leader that is very dynamic and they want to, find it so interesting, right? So you can start with that as a basis for your case. The other way is your university may have a lot of alumni members. You can also start with alumni. Get them to work with them or their companies. So that is a good starting point, right? So the first thing is you must have access to the company itself. Okay. The second one is confirm the case development. Now here what it means is once you have identified the company, it is good to have a contact person, like a middle person between you and the company that will help you engage the people from that company to your case itself. So the middle person will help to arrange the interviews, will help you to get the data for the company for your case itself, right? And I think this is a very important step because you cannot be arranging the interview. It's going to take a lot of time. So it's always good to have a middle person to help you arrange the interviews because they are the insiders. So it's always easier for them to arrange. Okay, like for example, the case that we had with BSN, the company it was we were engaged by Asian Institute of Finance or AIF. So AIF actually engaged us, and they were the person that arranged for all the interviews. They got the data for us, and whatever data we needed, we contacted AIF. We didn't contact BSN directly, right? So that helps a lot. So if you have your friend in the company, then they can be the middle person to help arrange the interviews. They can help to arrange some of the data that you might need for your case study, right? Or the materials that are needed to write your case. The other thing is you also want to ensure that, just double confirm with the company what kind of data that they can give you and what would be considered confidential. Because you don't want to write a case, halfway then you need some information. They say, oh, that information is confidential, we cannot release it, or it's going to take some time. Then that will delay your case writing process, right? And also the other one is timelines. Now timelines here is very important, especially when you have a funder or a company that engages you, and you need to give the case within a stipulated period, 6 months, for example. So having the timeline, setting the timelines when the interviews will be conducted, when you need to submit the first draft to the company and your funder, and the final draft, when do you need to submit it? All those are very important because sometimes if you don't set the timeline, you may find that your case writing may actually run over time, or it may take longer than expected. And the issue then is the problem that you were actually writing on may actually become an old problem, not interesting anymore, right? So the timeline there is actually very important. Then third step is once you have gotten the company, you have gotten the commitment of the company, go ahead and do your data collection. And this can include interviews. This can include telling your middle person what kind of information that you want, right? And here it is good to decide when the interviews will take place, who will be interviewed, and also prepare a list of the interview questions. So some of the interview questions that you can actually ask that is actually like, the tension point of the case that you want to write about in the case would be things like, what is your concern? We can actually ask, right, during the interview, what is your concern? What are some of the debates that management has on this issue, right? What are some of the alternatives that are available if your company doesn't take this route? Okay, how will the issue affect your company? So these are information that you can use to write your case. Okay, and also it is always good when you are doing the interviews to check with your interviewees whether they are comfortable being recorded. Because sometimes the person who is being interviewed, they don't want to be recorded. And so you may need to actually write down the whole interview process. So usually during the conducting of the interviews, if you can have another partner to go with you so that you are the person asking the question, then the other person can actually help you to take some of the notes during the interview session. Okay, then you write the case. Now, when you write the case, there are some elements of a good case, yeah. And like what Mr. William actually pointed out just now in his presentation, you have to make the case compelling. You have to make the case interesting. Why? Because you want the readers to read. You want the readers to be engaged in the case. I mean, some cases you read it and you just want to find out what happened next. What happened next? Just like reading a storybook, right? And I think that's the difference between a case study and an article. Empirical article, nobody actually finds it interesting to read. Yeah, but a case study can be very, very interesting to read. Yeah, so you have to make your case compelling or interesting. And how do you actually make your case interesting or compelling? A few ways, yeah. First is you can highlight an interesting problem, okay, that is current or that is relevant for today's situation. For example, right, under the current situation, maybe many companies are moving towards having employees working from home. So how do they manage that successfully? That could be one issue. Or during the pandemic, how did the company actually still maintain or sustain their market share? That could be one issue, yeah. You could have high turnover in the department, or trying to engage in social enterprise, right? So that could be something that is interesting to your readers, right? In the US, we have Elon Musk taking over Twitter. That could be something of an interesting case to write about. Or if you're a law lecturer, you might want to actually highlight the bad question tactics that are happening in Amber Heard's team within the Johnny Depp Amber Heard court, right? So you can actually have, bring in the interesting problem that is current, that is relevant, right? That is one way to make your case interesting. The other one is to choose well-known or local companies that are well-known, yeah, because then people like to read about the case because it's a well-known company. Oh, well-known company also got this issue, right? So it is something that is interesting. For example, there was this case that one of the case writers wrote about Haji Samuri Sateh. And I'm not sure whether you know Haji Samuri Sateh, the Kajaman. There were a lot, this case highlighted the infighting between the family members after Haji Samuri passed away. Now that was very interesting because people never know about Haji Samuri having all these problems. And so it made an interesting way. AirAsia, right? Also interesting because it's a well-known company. So those are the two things that you can incorporate to make your case interesting. The other one is, you have to write well, and it has to be succinct. It has to be, you have to write, although it's a case, you still have to write it not in a long-winded way, but it should be clear when you want to write your case, right? What you need is you have to have clarity in your writing. And one of the ways of having clarity in writing is to write maybe the issues chronologically, okay? And case writing is still academic writing. So like what Mr. William mentioned, you still need to make sure that the grammar mistakes are not there, spelling mistakes are not there, right? So cases should be clearly written. Don't go, if you can tell it in one straight sentence, or, don't go beat around the bush until your reader also doesn't know what you're trying to say, kind of thing, yeah. And make sure that you have all the important information provided in the case. And again, this ties back to the fact that you want your readers to have all the information in the case so that they can answer your case study questions that you have teaching note. A good case would have information in the case where the readers or the students do not have to search outside anymore, right? Everything is there, right? So those are some of the elements of a case. When you write, there are some considerations. Now, case writing is actually slightly different from writing a journal article in a sense that journal article is more straightforward, right? You will usually have your introduction, problem statement, research methodology, data analysis, discussion, conclusion. Very straightforward. Okay. But in a case study, it is a story. Okay. So when you read a storybook, you don't want just to have no character. It's so boring, right? You want to have the hero, the heroine, a villain, same thing lah. Yeah, writing a case, you also want to have characters to make it interesting. When you have your characters, we call it you can have the main character, which is the protagonist, right? And you can have the supporting actor lah, maybe the manager or the kaki to make up, yeah, the characters in your case. But when you put in the characters, you have to also ensure that they are relevant to your case. Because if you bring in too many characters, what's going to happen? You're going to confuse the readers. Just like reading a story, you have too many characters, you will also be confused. And then you have to turn back and read, who is this person? Oh, you know, so too many characters is also no good. But you must have some characters, yeah, in the case, because when you write a case also, actually you are writing from one of the characters' viewpoint. Okay, so having a character is a necessity. The other one is like what Mr. William mentioned. The funny thing about cases is you always write in the past tense. Okay, I know this is something that, you know, a lot of people, when they first start out in case writing, they say, why must you write in the past tense when it is still happening? The thing is, when we write a case, we are actually reporting what is happened or what has happened or the problem may have passed. And sometimes when the case is used, the issue is already solved, right? So that's why you write it in the past tense. Case writing is always written in the past tense. Okay. Avoid jargon, slang, or overly technical terms, because sometimes the users of your cases don't just come from your field. They can come from a variety of diverse backgrounds. And so if you use overly technical terms or jargon that only you understand, you're not going to actually find, you know, your readers are going to find the case difficult to follow. So unless, you know, you're using it as part of a quote or a conversation, right? Then I would suggest that you have an asterisk to actually explain that term or the jargon or the slang. Okay. Minimize giveaways. Now, what I mean here is that, you know, in the case writing, we don't actually go straight to give away information in the case. If you write a case, a good case would let the readers decide and what is, you know, what to decide on the issue itself. You don't tell outright to the reader, oh, this company has high turnover, for example. When you write a case, right, what you want is, if you want to show that the company has high turnover, okay, you do it through exhibits, you do it through graphs, you do it through maybe showing a table, showing high turnover throughout the years, and let the reader make that conclusion that, oh yes, this company has high turnover. So you want to minimize giveaways, right? Because writing, when you use a case, right, as a lecturer, you want the students to actually find out the information themselves. Not everything is given to them. So a good case writer will always remember that. Minimize giveaways. Avoid judgmental statements. As you're writing the case, right, you may actually form judgment on the person, on the company, but you cannot write your own judgment into the case. Cannot, yeah? Your case, you're supposed to write, you're just reporting what is happening. Okay, so you are supposed to be very objective. Even if you say, oh, the leader, when you are supposed to be writing this leader, in the end, you find this leader is a lousy leader. You cannot still say, oh, this leader is a lousy leader. No, you still have to write what you obtain based on the interviews. Okay, and write it in a very neutral way, and the case should not be written in a biased way that will influence the readers to come to that conclusion. Okay, so those are some of the elements, right, in when you're writing a case. Okay. So the fifth stage is once you have written your case, right? Many uh, journals, case journals, would request a release form from the company, and I think Mr. William also pointed out for the emerging marketing EMCS journal, you also need a release form, right? So you must get permission from the company to release the case, and usually this is all decided and informed to the case during the case determination time, yeah, the stage 2 time. Okay. And what happens is before the company actually sign a release form for the case is they will actually want to review the case that you have written. Okay, so for the Senawang case, for the BSN case, for the IPO case, once we have written the case, we send it back to the company, let them review the case, and let them say which part they want us to revise, and then we revise it and then pass it back to them. So it sometimes takes about 2 to 3 rounds. And if you have a funder who is funding your case study, they also want to read the case. So you have to factor that into your timeline as well, right? Once they are happy, then they will sign the release form. Okay, and usually if you have you still maintain a good relationship throughout your case writing process with the company, this shouldn't be a problem at all. Okay, then the last step, okay, is to write the teaching note. So the teaching note actually is as important as your main case, because journals have been known to reject a case because of a very poorly written teaching note. So a teaching note is actually as important as the main case itself, right? And this is usually about 30 to 35 pages. Never ever think that a teaching note of 1 page is sufficient. No. Journals will definitely reject. See, Mr. William also said, cannot. Yeah. So you have to put in equal effort to developing your teaching note. Okay, so those are technically the 6 steps in the case research process, right? And it's actually possible to finish up a case within a 6 months period. It is possible, right? In fact, a 6 months is actually quite ideal. Longer than that, you find that either the company becomes very tired or you actually lose focus, right? So 6 months is actually a good time for a case study. So you find that cases can be done within 6 months and you can publish it. So it's a very fast way of actually publishing, if you like. Okay. Now, those are the process, yeah. So what actually goes in when you write a case, right? So I'm just going to touch on here briefly, yeah. So in a case, when you look at a case, any of the case studies that you are able to assess, Mr. William will share our chicken and egg story. Yeah, you'll find that generally there are 3 parts, yeah, to a case. You have the introduction, or we have a prologue, the body, and then the conclusion, or we call it the epilogue. So if you start with an introduction, you will have a conclusion. If you start with a prologue, you will end with an epilogue. Okay, so those are the 3 elements. It's different from writing a journal article, because journal articles have more headings, right? This one is actually quite standard: introduction, body, epilogue. Okay, now the introduction to me is actually a very important part of the case, right? Because it acts as a hook to reel your readers into reading your case. Okay, if your introduction or your prologue is boring, then you will find that your readers are not going to be engaged in the case itself really. So the prologue is actually, to me, an important part to get your case off to a great start. It's just like when you write a journal article, the abstract is actually very important, because when people want to download an article, what do they look at first? The abstract, right? If the abstract is a boring abstract, has no information, they're going to just pass off the article. Although you may have such a well-written article, but it's never going to get read or cited because the abstract is so poorly written. Same thing with the prologue or the introduction. If you don't have a good introduction, your case is going to not be as engaging to the readers. Yeah. So, what do you need to create an interesting prologue? Well, take a look at this example. Yeah, take a look at this example. Malaysian AIDS Council, the Put It On campaign. Wow, when you see put it on, I know some of you are thinking about put what on, yeah? Sigh, I wish I knew how to do it. See, very captivating, right? So this is a prologue for this case study. It was 3rd March 2015 when Dr. Suzy, Dr. Maslan, Prof. Dr. Roslina, and Nisa, Dr. Suzy's assistant, were discussing Malaysian AIDS Council's Put It On campaign. The campaign was purposely launched on 1st December 2014 during World AIDS Day. The Body Shop and ESP, Enjoyable Safe Pleasure Condom, were collaborative partners of this Put It On campaign. The main purpose of Put It On campaign was to increase awareness of women about practicing safe sex behavior. Okay, now it's quite a long prologue, so I've actually summarized it. Okay, and so the end part of it is, although MAC launched Put It On campaign in December 2014, MAC was not able to promote condom use through the mainstream mass media. Promoting condom use and educating safe sex practice remained taboo in Malaysia. And Dr. Suzy, who had been serving MAC for more than 5 years as a communication manager, was feeling disappointed with the restriction for marketing this Put It On campaign. The restriction from media regulation affected the coverage of target audience. She found it almost impossible to reach out to young women to inform them about their sexual right or condom use and to educate them on safe sex practice. She whispered to herself, "Sigh, I wish I knew how to do it." Okay, so if you look at it, this is actually, it has a catchy prologue to read, right? I wish I knew how to do it. She, Put It On campaign, and it has certain elements. So what are some of these elements that would make a prologue interesting? Okay, and these are certain elements that are usually found in most of. One is there is always a time in the case itself. Now, this time, if you see in the prologue that I read, they put it as 3rd March 2015 time, right? And this time is actually, it can be, the time that the case is set. So it can be a day, a week, a month, a year, yeah, to give a feeling of when the case took place. And you'll find that having a time in the prologue is actually good, because when you write your case later on, you can actually, give certain dates to certain events, and then the readers can see how the events actually flow. Okay, so having a time. Okay, and then usually in the prologue, you always have the main character. We call it the protagonist. So the protagonist in the case that I've just highlighted would be Dr. Suzy, right? And usually you give a position so that the readers know where the decision maker is coming from, right? And usually it is someone in charge of a project. They have to make a decision within a short time frame, okay? Being an organization's name and location is good, because what you want is then the reader can actually envision or imagine the organization itself, where it's taking place, right? And remember, I told you earlier, you want to make a compelling case, having a well-known organization, so having the name is good, right? And you always highlight the issues or the problems, and these are usually the questions that the readers will need to answer later on. So in the case of Malaysian AIDS Council, it was, how will they first educate maybe the public, and how later on, if you download the case, it's actually available for downloading at Asian Case Research Journal. How she's going to push 50,000 condoms to the main market, 50,000 condoms and market it, right? So that was the issue lah, yeah. And then the importance of the decision, what will happen, the consequences to the stakeholders or to the company, right? So most dramatic one is the company will lose a key account holder, or in the case of Malaysian AIDS Council is how they're going to push the 50,000 in a month, right? And then the urgency. So urgency here is usually shown by the very short time frame. And that's where the time is important, because if you read later on, I'll show you the epilogue, she had to make a decision and she gives a date within a month. So then you say, oh, so urgent, so kanchiong, right? So these are elements of a good prologue, because when you have all these elements, you write it in and you write it very descriptively. You actually make the readers feel like they are part of the story. You know, you will find a lot of case study. They always start with, it was a sunny day. Encik Azlan was looking out of the window from his KLCC office, drinking coffee. So you can imagine, wow, KLCC, looking at the building, drinking coffee, enjoying the coffee, when he heard a knock and Encik Azlan saw this, received the letter marked confidential from top management. Then you can imagine. So you when you write this, and then you can imagine what's happening already, right? So when you write a prologue, make it as vivid a description as possible, so that you can actually make the readers feel like they are part of the situation, right? That is what makes the case compelling. Okay, so those are something to think about when you write a prologue, yeah. Then the second part is the body. So the body is where you put in all the information about the case, the company, the industry, who are the competitors, some background information about the key characters, what made this issue come about. So you providing context for the problem, and then you may want to give in some information, some developments that have taken place that brought about this issue. And this is where you will include tables, maps, or figures that will help in analyzing the case. So when you write your case, right, the body is actually where you will put in all your information. Okay, and a good tip here is to think of what questions you want to ask in your teaching note, so that you can put in the information inside your body. That's what I do lah. Yeah, I will think of potentially what are the key theories or concepts that I want to highlight in this case. And then I will write it in to the case itself, so that the information is as complete as possible for the analysis to take place. Yeah. Is the epilogue or the conclusion. If you use introduction, then conclusion. If you use prologue, then it becomes epilogue. So usually epilogue ends with an urgency to solve the problem. Okay, it can end with a question, it can end with a challenging statement, it can end with a desire to solve the problem or do or die mood. Yeah, you will see that this example, Asian AIDS Council one, this is their epilogue. Yeah. So they ended with, Dr. Suzy was in the process to prepare a marketing strategy to increase awareness of target audience about the Put It On campaign. She had only 1 month to prepare the strategy before the next meeting. She was under stress with the tight deadline and difficulty in promoting the Put It On campaign. The major issue was social cultural factors. She wondered how to promote condom use under such constraints. She knew that the failure to come up with an effective promotional strategy might put a full stop to the Put It On campaign. Dr. Suzy remembered the report by the UNICEF, which stated that for every sex worker who was infected by HIV at the same time, 13 housewives were also infected. And it goes on, so I just summarized the last part. Dr. Suzy was under stress by seeing the difficulty to make this happen. She had only 1 month in her hand to come up with an effective marketing strategy for this campaign. Prof. Dr. Roslina wanted her to solve the problem by April 2015. She was determined not to accept defeat. We must make it happen. But how? she questioned herself. So it ends with an urgency. And you can see here the timing that she put in the prologue actually now helps in stating the urgency again in the epilogue, right? And so in the epilogue itself, you will find that usually we always revisit the decision that needs to be made, right? So Dr. Susie here needs to actually market the condo, right? We also bring back the focus to the case protagonist, which is Dr. Susie, the main character. And we also highlight the decision or the dilemma that she is facing or the protagonist is facing. So these are some of the elements in the epilogue itself. Okay. Now, so when you finish the writing, that is one part. Okay, and usually we will give this case to the company or the funder to read. Usually teaching note, they are not so interested in lah. Teaching note is actually more for the case writer itself, right? So I'll go on to the teaching note, but I think I won't have to cover more because Mr. William has actually covered very extensively on the teaching note itself. But it is actually as important as the case, the main case itself, because the teaching note, as I mentioned, yeah, when you send your article, your case study for publication, they will also look at your teaching note and they will comment. What I've actually received comments on teaching note is sometimes they say that, you know, your questions are too broad. You may need to actually make it narrower and focus it. And so, you know, some reviewers will actually tell you which part to focus on. So always think what you want to focus on in your case and actually have that in your teaching note. Don't have it too broad, because too broad, then reviewers also find it, you know, it may be challenging because sometimes unknowingly the information may not be found in your case itself, right? So those are some of the comments that we have got from our teaching. So what is a teaching note? A teaching note is a document that accompanies a teaching case to help your potential users or the instructors gain an insight into the case and achieve better usage of the case. So usually the purpose of the teaching note is to provide instructors with how to use your case in their class or in their training. Okay, so that is part of the teaching note. Okay, now the teaching note, what I have here is actually some general elements, but when you are writing to a journal, also check what are the elements that they want you to include in a teaching note, because different journals have got different subheadings that they want to be included in the teaching note itself. Okay, but what I've given here is some of the general elements, yeah. Okay, and when you write your teaching note, right, sometimes it's actually good to start with some elements of the teaching note before you write the case, and this is actually what I do. I actually think about, like I mentioned earlier, the case questions or theories that I want to highlight in the teaching note, and then I work backwards. Okay, I want to highlight, let's say, this characteristic about leadership, transformational leadership. So I will try to write all the elements of transformational leadership. Of course, you have to not give away, but you write it in such a way that characterizes transformational leadership in your case itself, so that, you know, the students or the readers, when they are asked this question, they should be able to pick up those elements from your case itself. Okay, so what are the elements of a teaching note? I think very standard is you must have a case synopsis. Yeah, this tells you the brief description of the case and the key issues that should be answered in the case itself. Okay. Audience, which course is suitable for this case? Some cases are written specifically for certain courses. You'll find that I do have cases that are only written to be used in ethics or social responsibility classes, right? But you do have cases that are specific, that are written, that can be used in multiple courses like HR or OB, right? So you decide which course and which student level. right? Because some cases, if they are written for undergraduate, you don't want to put in too much information, right? So undergraduate level and postgrad level, for example, would be quite different, the content of the case itself. So which student level? Okay, and I think this would also help your users. They know, oh, this case is only suitable for undergraduate, so they won't then pick it up for their postgraduate or their master students, right? And then you have your learning objectives or learning outcomes. So this is a list of what the students should be able to do after having discussed the case. So examples, you can actually say that at the end of this case analysis, students should be able to, one, identify strategies that will help companies engage in sustainable practices. Two, assess the attractiveness of a company in this industry using maybe Michael Porter's 5 forces model. So you can have such objectives, and usually a good number of objectives will be between 3 to 5, like not too much, not too many, because too many will be, I think, too ambitious, right? And when you have too many, then your reviewers will say, okay, which part is actually matching with your case. So 3 to 5 is good. Usually, I see for our own cases, we write it with about three learning objectives. Yeah. The other one is teaching plan. So teaching plan is where you describe how the case can be used in class. For example, you can actually, in your teaching plan, like what Mr. William has shown, is time allocation for activities. That is a good one. You can also suggest trigger questions to open up, to start the discussion, or you can offer ideas for group work, because most of the time when we use cases, we actually use it in a group. So actually, I like to use to read out teaching or instructor manual that actually highlights how I can use the case as for group discussion. So those are actually part of the teaching plan. Then you have the case questions itself, usually between 3 to 5 as well. And usually what you do here is you include a list of questions that can be used for discussion. And usually they're open-ended questions to generate discussion. And do bear in mind that when you ask these questions, the answers to these questions should be found in the case itself. Yeah, though that is the element of a good case. Okay. And then sample answers. Must have sample answers, right? Yeah, you cannot just give the questions, no answers, right? If you are the case facilitator, you would want answers. And so the answers should be based on analysis that can be obtained from the case, like I mentioned. And if you are writing it, that the questions has calculation, then, or it has quantitative data for analysis, then I think it's also important that you also include the answers to the calculation, so that the facilitators can check against their own calculation. Okay, so those are your sample answers. Your answers here, then you can bring in theories. If you use evaluation techniques, then you can put in the explanation for the evaluation techniques and so on. Right, so those are sample answers. And then background reading. Sometimes as I want your readers to actually prepare beforehand to read up certain chapters, certain concepts, you can actually provide it in the background reading. And sometimes I see that, some cases, they also provide what happened to the company. Maybe after writing, then, you want to tell them, okay, actually the company took this decision and this was what happened. Right, so you can actually put it there. Right, so those are my take on the teaching note lah. Yeah, and I think that is my second last slide. My last slide is really some case journals that you can actually refer to. You have the case journal by Admiral, and then we have the Asian Case Research Journal, Asian Journal of Management Case Research Journal by NACRA, and then the South Asian Journal of Business and Management. I actually didn't know that EMCS actually gives £100 when the cases are published. Very good incentive. So I do have one case. I think I'm actually trying for that. So yeah, I think those are some of the journals that you can actually assess some of the cases from. Yeah, not all the cases are actually available for open access. Like for example, you go into Asian Case Research Journal, may not be able to actually assess all, but you do get quite a good selection as of Case Journal as well. Yeah. I think with that, I finished my presentation. Thank you very much for everyone's attention. I'm very much open to Q&A if you have any questions. Thank you. Over to Mr. William.
Thank you so much. Wow, I learned a lot today. Oh, there's so many things that I would like to to share as well. Example, one of the case that the last slide that Prof. you share, the Asian AJMC Asian Journal Management case. So we are also doing together with them on one conference by July this year. So which is by Sage lah, by Sage.
Yes, the Sage one, right? That is a very good journal.
Very good journal, yes, very good journal. I think they are also indexed in Scopus and Private Analytics, if I'm mistaken. Yes. So I met with the editor-in-chief. They are very busy, and they have very good cases included over there. The editor-in-chief is from India. Yeah. So oh yes, please. Now will be a time for Q&A sessions. Feel free to put your questions into the chat. If you wish to voice up, you may also do so by unmute yourself. You can also ask the question.
Yeah, hi. Hi, William. Hi, Professor Hall.
Hi, yes.
Yeah. I'm Joe here.
Right.
I think I'm too slow to type, so I just open my mic to ask. So I'm actually one of the researcher myself, and also I'm also carrying two heads. Actually, I'm also researching in a case studies in my company. I'm also a sales director. So in terms of publishing the articles, there will be always I would say the conflicts. How will the reviewer or should we handle on these conflicts? When in terms of like when submitting the articles.
Sorry, so that means you are the case writer, right?
Yes, I'm the writer, but I'm also writing a case on the sales process of as I'm a sales director in the company. So actually, I'm wearing two hats. That means A is me, B is also me. Yeah, I mean, when just now I saw your slide that you want to discuss with the case owners, So when we're submitting the article, there will be certain questions. How do you manage the conflict if there's any from there?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So you are the case writer and you're also a director in the company, right?
Yeah. Sales director. I'm the sales director.
Sales director. Yes.
Yeah.
So what you can actually, probably what you can do is, maybe write it. Try to see it from an outsider's point of view. Writing it from an outsider point of view, or you can actually, if you have a partner to write with, maybe the partner can write your part, right? That would be something that you can actually then eliminate the biasness lah. Because I know it's quite hard to eliminate biasness when you are also so closely linked to the issue itself.
Yeah, I'm actually the only sole writers. Actually, that's the I'm okay. Just like I'm trying to publish the article now. So in a way, I found that maybe some like the argumentative points, because of the sales directors, like I say, am also it's easily written, but I just don't know what is the reviewer point. So since there will be a reviewer from like for example Emirate, to look into why this guy say two things, trustable, the reliability of it. So if it's okay, then there's no question about it.
Yeah. It should be. Yeah, Mr. William, please go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I think what Prof actually mentioned is actually correct. I'm actually wanted to say that as well. I just want to add on another one thing. It's actually quite common. Not to say common. There are a few cases that I've read where they also included the the client or the storytelling, like the storytelling people inside. Of course, most of them would be the manager level, the manager level or director level. They will actually include them as the case writer. The only thing that may be a bit different from you, because you mentioned that you are the only sole writer for this part. For this particular case, so hence, yes, it may project the biasness, because you are the only one and you are telling the story from your side itself. Probably, if it's something that you can consider, right? If you can consider to get another co-writer that can speak from another language or from another perspective, that would actually would be better itself, and also it will also give you a different argument perspective point. So this is just some well,
can it be it's like can it be comments, but they are not the writers, because they are also, we have about 14 people in the work group together for this research. So that means any people that we can quote the person who commented in a different angle. Is that okay?
You are
Something
saying that,
like that?
yes. So you
Yeah,
can
because we
also,
don't have a second writer. It's just like, but in the work group itself, we have because I'm doing like action research. So basically, the work group have about 14 people inside the action research. Anyway.
Right. You can also put that in that particular way. Who that you would like to bring in together as your co-writer. Well, you have the decisions onto that. The point of that will be to answer the bias one. Another point that I would like to also get your attention would be the consent letter. The consent letter seems nothing actually. You can also download the consent form from the Emerald website or from the other journal website. They may have sample ready. So giving an example from Emerald consent letter form is basically just to say that you have gotten the consent to write about this story on this company, or referring them on this particular story and things like that. So the consent form would also serve as the as a proof or as an indication that is no bias or no conflict that can be looked into. Prof. Ho just now mentioned about if you want to write about the Malaysia Airline, the crisis, and cannot write one because no government staff would want to tell about this story one. Nobody want to get interviewed by that. So the data are coming from the secondary source. Hence, it's actually called the desk. The desk field itself.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say is that for desk field, then how do they get consent? Because they are not able to interview the primary source and the people. So the consent form, they can actually consult example, because most of them would be from university level. They can consult the dean or the program head, so that they can be the one to cross-check the data itself is actually correct. So the consent form is not for legal purposes. It's actually more to check the quality and to make sure that the data gathering, the quality itself is in order. Of course, we hope that there's no bias and it is there.
Okay, understood. Just the next question, very short one again. Sorry. So
No problem.
The last one. Yeah, I like when in terms of submitting the articles, like for example, like 5,000, 7,000, or maybe the longest is 8,000 to 9,000. Being into the qualitative research, right? We actually analyze a lot of quotes. Like the codings, from the managers, from the salespeople, from the pre-sales technical people, and before reaching to the customers. So all this actually quite lengthy. So in a way, when submitting that articles, do we just focus into writing the result and conclusion? We don't write any things that refer to the quotes, but put everything on this into the appendix?
Right. For this, if I may, I hijack this one first.
Yeah.
So that I'll get Prof. Hall to answer this after this.
Yeah.
Joe, if I may, right, I would like to re-explain for today's sessions, because we are focusing more on the case story. So case story and the research article whether using the method quantitative or qualitative or SPSS or SEM, right? So those are mainly on the journal research, yeah. Sorry, on the article research paper, where there is the part one, the introductions, the literature review, the methodology, the the findings and the discussion part. For today, because the today's sessions is more on it's like writing a Harry Potter book.
Okay,
understood. It's like writing Harry Potter die already, not die yet. No, sorry. Writing Harry Potter book and how Harry Potter in the particular decisions, right, on its particular scenario, when he's getting attacked, then how he and his friends are able to come out or discuss or come there. One of the case story that I love the most, unfortunately, it's not from Emerald. It's actually the Robin Hood case story. If you can Google it, you can have a read. It's a very short Robin Hood case story. It talks about the business perspective, how Robin Hood, because he need to rob the royal or the the rich people so that he can give it to the poor people back then, and using that. Using in the international business perspective, how he managed his team member so that he did not rob.
Okay, understood.
Right. So just want to say into that. So
it's more like illustration of a case, I mean that you have done something like that. The milestone itself, rather than a research article of a case study, but it's just an illustration. Okay. Got it.
Exactly.
Then it's okay.
With that, I would just want to pass it to Prof. Paul, because your questions would relate more on the article, research article on the methodology. If Prof. Paul can have any say on that.
So thank you very much, Mr. William. So for Joe's question, I would assume that you're asking for a manuscript research article, yeah? So yes, the transcripts, if you want to show the full transcripts, then appendix, but appendix also sometimes journals also have word limit or page limit. So they wouldn't want all the transcripts to be there. So usually for qualitative writing, we will just highlight certain quotes that support the point that you are writing.
Okay.
But to return to your question on case, your first question is, I also thought of the other way is, you can actually have your colleagues who are case writers to review your case and see whether they find it biased or not. Okay, if they find it biased, means it's biased. Yeah, and usually for many cases before publication, you have to run the case in class itself, right? And so that would be another way to also determine whether your case is biasly written. Right?
Okay, understood.
But in case writing, we do want some conversations, but of course the conversations are sparsely written in the cases itself. This is just to add variety to the writing itself. You want more passive writing.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Papa. Thanks.
Welcome, Joe. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for that. For the interactions, we always appreciate that. And Joe, I mean, if you mind, are you studying currently in UW?
Oh yeah. Actually, I'm a doctoral student for one of the business case.
Wow.
In terms of in focus into software monetization process, but I'm trying to measure the culture differences. What is the things that actually influence the adoption of this management concept and tools because everything is going to be software in the future. I mean, or somehow related. But the adoption rate of monetizing all this IP and knowledge in the region of Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand are very much different. So I try to incorporate, the TAR model and then extend it, with other factors, like culturals, even externals, or even awareness in terms of marketing into one huge system theory, and how to really look into the differences that cause the different adoption rate in the region. So and then provide a perspective and conclusion about how we're going to get over it. So we do it in a live way. So like action research for 2 years. I mean, we plan for a 2 years data collection. So keep on going with all the leads, you know, I mean, they're coming in, then we talk to all the customers across these 5 countries.
Right.
And we also have triangulation with another set of data, also qualitative, okay,
Right.
but it's more into using CIT method into those existing data source. So we
Right.
have new customer leads and existing data source to keep on checking what is happening, you know, and learning from there. So to explore more. So that the between developed country, Australia and New Zealand, and between Singapore and compared to Malaysia, Thailand, you know, and what is the things, you know, that hammering the differences in here. It's very interesting because we found the data in North Asia, North Europe, North America also different from this region. Yeah, because we are the distributor for this region, and then we found, yeah, it's a good thing that all learn together and doing the research and put things, the theory into practice in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Even you I heard from you, I can see. I mean, at least I can hear that it's very in depth of what you are trying to do, and also, and something that I wouldn't say correct, but I can see similarity or success of articles that been published. Right, normally they will see comparisons between one country or one region to another region.
Yes, correct.
This is something that the editorial teams would also like to see that, and this is also something originality lah, the originality value, and something that can be referred or can be discussed upon. Well, good luck to you. Good luck to you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I'm because I'm being we're a practical person all the time in sales. You know, sometimes to sit down back to read reviews and write it's not easy. We are not pro on that area, so that's why getting a lot of confusion. Just like you just see, you know, even my supervisor asked me to come with an article for the second articles. You know, easily for 20,000. I'm looking how to compress to 7,000. So that's a challenge because I'm not in this field. So, yeah.
I can tell you now, when I first started off in Emerald Publishing Company, right, I also cannot read all the articles. I couldn't understand the technicality terms.
Oh yeah.
Hence you see why I talk more on cases, because I like cases more than.
Yeah, it's true. For the first year when first time when I do literature review, it's so difficult. I use almost a day to read an article. Until maybe reaching 80 to 90 articles that range, then you can speed up until 2 to 3 hours. You skip whatever you don't like. But because we are not used to review, that's the problem, you know. Then take almost 1 day to 2 days only for one article. My goodness. Yeah.
Okay lah. I can see you are there already lah. Okay, good luck.
Oh,
good luck.
wait. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Prof.
Right. Thank you, Joe. Is there any other questions from the floor or anything you want to share and so? No. Okay. Before we pass the floor back to Encik Hazim and say goodbye, I just wanted to share one last thing. Allow me to do a last promotion. This afternoon, today I have 2 webinar, 2 workshops. This morning with Prof. Ho. Thank you so much, Prof. Ho. And this afternoon, I'm going to have a workshop with Prof. Ho friend, Dr. Cordelia Mason from Yayasan Uni KL. It's 2:30 in the afternoon until 5:30, 2:30 to 5 lah, 2.5 hours via the Zoom itself. And Dr. Cordelia I've been working with her for a few years, and she has a very unique way in writing a story. I learned a lot from her on how to have a paradigm in terms of writing and the peak, how to actually hold the storytelling so that it has a peak area. And so I could not really write it yet, but when I see her translating that, that's how I imagine. That's actually how I'm imagining onto that. So if you have time to join us on that, feel free to join us. I'm going to send the link over here. And and Prof. Ho, Dr. Cody just asked me to say hi to you.
Okay, thank you. I may try to join today, maybe later. Say hi later as well.
Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's actually all from me. And is there any last word from Prof. Ho?
Yeah, well, I thank you very much, Mr. William. I do hope that whatever I've shared will encourage and motivate all of you to try case writing. It's not difficult. It is almost like writing a story. You can start short and then you can start going on from there. and I enjoyed myself. I hope all of you also enjoyed listening to me. Thank you very much. Have a nice week ahead, everyone.
Yeah, thank you again. Thank you to Prof. Hall for having her break time right now together with us here. Thank you so much again. And also thank you to all the attending the sessions. Thank you, Hazim, always for organizing such a good,
Thank you so
great
much.
event.
Hazim, thank you,
No,
Mr. Here, for
With
invitation.
that, with that, I pass the floor back to you, Hazim.
okay, thank you so much, Prof. Ho and Mr. William for today's session. Very fruitful session, I believe. And I hope that we can have this more session like this in future on different topics. Maybe we can discuss, I can discuss with Mr. William on different topics and Prof. Ho for the future venture. So on behalf of TLC and UOWM Malaysia KDU, thank you so much for today. And I think this is the end of today. And stay safe. And thank you.
All right, thank you. Like Prof said, have a good weekend, weekday and weekend to everyone.